Hi, good evening. And I think we are live. All right, so I am Deanne Battle. Welcome to season 2, episode 4 of the composite. And I might be mislabeling that. I'll address that in a second. But yes, it's, I believe, I know it's season 2, but it's, I believe, episode 4, or possibly episode 5. Don't quote me on that. Okay, so the reason, why doesn't she know which episode of her own damn show it is? Because the last episode, when I hopped on live, it didn't record. It was about 35 minutes and change, and I have no idea where the video is, right? So I don't know. Now, here's the thing, though, that's weird. When I go to Instagram and they have the dashboard, the professional dashboard, it shows all the content that you've made, and it shows me a thumbnail of the video. So the video exists somewhere. It's just not on my phone right now. So what I hope to do is hopefully before the end of the week, find a way to restore the video. It was a watershed moment in social media television programming. No, I just don't, want to lose the videos that I've made. So I will try to figure out how to get that one back. So that was the last episode. So yes, I have been filming, right, since September, last month. I took a hiatus between seasons. Just to try to decompress a little bit, but I've been super busy. So the decompression has not happened. See, notice bags, right? And I barely made it to this episode because I was stuck in gridlock traffic. So that's another story too. But I'm here. I am here and super glad to be here. So was really looking forward to filming tonight, right? And then we have my co-host here, Zena, who you hear sniffing and panting. You might see her on screen eventually. She has gotten to the point where she doesn't let me do the show alone. So that is what it is. Okay. So, let's start with story time, right? So like I said, last episode, I don't know where that video is. I'll take a look for it. Gridlock traffic. So, I had, over experimenting with this programming format and stuff, I decided maybe 7:30 was a better time than 11:30, which was when I initially started trying to do the show back in May. But I just spent over 3.5 hours in traffic each way to work. So that's been the majority of my day, about 7 hours in traffic. I've mentioned this, I think, quite a few episodes ago, but I live in Pennsylvania at the moment, working in New York, trying to find a new apartment with the crazy hair. Two separate things. Trying to find an apartment, and the housing market. It's New York City, of course, so it's going to be difficult. But the housing market's not cooperating right now. So I have this place, I have a lease. I'm frankly not going to get an apartment like this in New York. I mean, let's see. The apartment that I have right now would probably be like twice the price. And it's, it's good for my purposes. I live alone. I've got a dog. But, it's not worth like over $4,000. But that's probably what it would be in New York. And so, I've seen a few places and, tried to negotiate a little bit, but it hasn't come together just yet. So I am commuting right now, which is super expensive and super tiring, but it's only 2 or 3 days a week. So I'm trying to, grin and bear it just until I can finish making this transition in my life. So all of that being said, I initially thought that I would be home like 6:45, 7. That did not happen. Traffic was not cooperating. And so I got back later. So now here it is after 8 o'clock. I still have some grading that I want to do before I go to sleep. I do want to go to sleep. So I'll be on probably for about 30 minutes, maybe. But I'm proud of myself. I've made a commitment to do this show, and here I am, right? So it's not like I've got like a following or anything yet, but you have to be consistent so you can grow, right? So this is a growth process. Not growing as quickly as I would like, but it's a process. So other parts of story time. I spoke about losing last episode. I spoke about gridlock in traffic and whatnot. Other things. There's a test of the emergency broadcast system tomorrow, and I believe so. I've been seeing announcements about it. And I'm slightly suspicious, not necessarily nervous, but slightly suspicious. And it's not because they shouldn't be doing those sorts of tests. They definitely should. But, you know, it's just a general, like, what Michigas are you all up to, right? That you need to test for an emergency, right? Because a lot of times when we actually have an emergency, you know, systems and stuff are not in place properly. I'm thinking primarily of Hurricane Katrina. But anyway, you know, when we actually have emergencies, systems and stuff are not in place. So I just wonder what about this particular, you know, test of the system, you know, who is that going to benefit, or why is it happening type of situation. Yeah, generally, I've just been tired, you know. And one thing you learn, if you're commuting between two major metropolitan areas, the first and last 10 miles are always the slowest, or at least that's what I've been experiencing. Pardon me. I've earned that sip. It seems like I spend like an hour on the first, let's say 10 to 15 miles, and an hour on the last 10 or 15 miles, and then everything in between is actually not that bad. So that's the part that's like super frustrating, because it's just like you get down to mile like 19 or whatever. I can see the Google map out of my peripheral vision, and I'm like, okay, so 19 miles. Yes, 19 miles. 19 miles going X miles per hour. I won't say to not incriminate myself. I will say though, I'm by no means the fastest person on the road at any, you know, by any means of the imagination, so to speak. But I definitely am driving faster than, you know, I'm used to. But, you know, at the same time, it's like, you know, if I can beat the clock on Google Map, like if I do that for, you know, a half hour or so, I might be able to shave off 4 or 5 minutes, you know, which when class starts at 9, sometimes it's just like, gun it, right? But, you know, I'll see out of the corner of my vision here, it'll say 19 miles. And then I'll be like, okay, 19 miles. And then, boop, gridlock, right? And then you spend that 19 miles putt. But what I will say, though, is having that time to just sit with myself and think things through. And I don't have any like massive choices on the horizon right now, like let's say between now and the end of the year. But, you know, it's just kind of taking stock of where your life is. You know, excuse me, looking, you know, at your car in relationship to other people's car. Like, does that say anything about you? If it does, what does it say? All of that sort of stuff. It's been really interesting. Trying to stream, you know, enough content to keep my interest while I'm driving. That is, has been interesting. I have podcasts and stuff that, I'm interested in, but it's like, sometimes a podcast will take on a particular aesthetic, which if I'm just driving 15 or 20 minutes, oh, that annoys me, but it's fine because I'm not going to have it on for that long. Whereas if I'm driving 3+ hours, it's like, oh my God, I can't take multiple episodes of this show because they have that really annoying music, or the announcer has a lisp, or, whatever it is that is a nitpicky nothing burger. But again, if you're sitting with your own thoughts, you have time to think about it, and sometimes that can be annoying. So other stuff. And the bummer is, like, I had articles and stuff that I wanted to look into and prepare for tonight, and like I barely made it on here. It was like 8:02 when I started this video, so I was late to the late time that I set up. Sorry, I keep adjusting here. My co-host she's trying to tell me something, but not sure what it is yet. Anywho, other stuff. Yeah, the only thing that I'll say in Trump news, because there's a lot going on there, is John Kelly gave Jake Tapper an interview and went into detail about some things that were revealed anonymously by ex-staffers. And so he was just, confirming some of the really terrible things that apparently, allegedly, according to John Kelly, that Donald Trump actually did say about veterans, about troops, about the military in general. And when does that train stop, right? Because it's like, whether it's John Kelly or Cassidy Hutchinson or Mark Milley, it's just all of these people, right? Like, what is that group called with Harlequin from DC, the Suicide Squad? Like, that's what it feels like. It's just like Donald Trump's Suicide Squad. Everybody's like revealing backstage effluvia, secrets, whatever. It's like, this doesn't clean you up. This doesn't rehabilitate your image. I think I don't have to use any descriptors. I think most people are aware, or should be aware of the character of the last president. And you chose to work for him. Like, you were down with the program. You were down for the team. The only reason you're not down for the team now is because he broke bad on you. So I don't give a shit about anything John Kelly or any of the rest of them have to say. I just don't. And they're writing these tell-all books and they're doing these interviews, and it's like, oh, you're going to get the tea on Trump. It's like, no, this is not new, right? If we hear it about him, it probably happened. Not for any political reasons or, pro-Democrat, whatever. That's just his universe. He's messy. And so most of the things you hear about him, yeah, he probably did that shit. And so why pay people for that when they did everything in their power to protect this man, to execute his worst impulses? You worked for him. So no, I don't give a shit about anything you have to say, or how he offended you, or like how you're aggrieved by anything he's done. You've completely enabled the current political climate, and it's a dumpster fire. So yeah, that's it about that. I don't really want to address anything else in that universe, because it keeps going. It keeps going. When You know what? That's an excellent question. When will we hear the last Donald Trump story? Like, can we put a year on that? Well, let's give him the Feinstein timeline. R.I.P. to Dianne Feinstein. I believe she was 90 or 91. So that would give Trump another 10, 12, maybe 13 years. But you have to figure even then there would be some stories and tell-all books after he passed away. So then would he be like Tupac, where it's just like an album comes out 10 years later? Would there be another tell-all like 10 years after Trump dies? I don't know. But yeah, I'm over it. I mean, I've been over it for a while. I'm politically independent. I've never registered for any party, but I definitely lean, I guess, more progressive in terms of my, if I haven't said this before, I probably have, but I tended, like, for instance, when I lived in New York, I tended to vote down ballot, not all the time, but a lot of the times for the Working Families Party. So that's where my allegiance lies. That middle class and working class and poor families can have, health care and good educations and childcare and, care and help and social services for senior citizens and veterans. Like, anybody who's, contributing to society, anybody that's a minor, a child with no rights, right? I just think people should be able to live in dignity and, make contributions to their community, to society, and that we should do things to combat the corruption and inequity that we have. So that's my philosophy. So, I mean, you can align that, any way you want to slice it. But if we're just talking about general cultural deterioration and lack of political discourse, the Trump era has enabled a lot of our worst impulses as a society. And so that's the part I'm really over. And I don't blame it on him per se, right? Because, there have to be people, right, actively agreeing with him, actively signing up for the agenda. But nevertheless, it has taken its toll, I think, in terms of general rhetoric and discourse. So, that's why I'm kind of putting a timer on it. Like, when can we let go of this, right? You would think that, or how do I phrase this? It's preferable that it wouldn't take death to get us there. But, again, the guy won't stop committing crimes. He won't stop posting on social media. He won't stop doing interviews. He won't stop running for president. So, if he won't stop, I guess something else has got to stop him. So there's that, right? But that's not a wish. That's not anything malicious, because that happens to us all, right? Even me. So when my day comes, you will not have any more of my janky broadcasts from my somewhat ill-lit living room. But other things I'm thinking about, want to talk about. I don't know if I spoke about the Tyler Perry Michigas, where he's saying, like, black women, like, hey, if you find a good brother that's willing to pay your light bill and you make all the money, that's okay. I might have addressed that on the last episode. Maybe that's why I was interested in retrieving it from whatever dumpster it lives in right now. or I might have said something 2 episodes ago. But what's interesting is, excuse me, people are still in random ways responding to what he said. And I just wonder what his next movie in terms of reception from Black women. I'm just curious to see like how my demographic will respond given what he's said. Because I think if you've watched enough Tyler Perry movies, you know that it tends to be the narrative, right? A mechanic slash gas station attendant with a heart of gold, with braids that are overdue for a wash and a touch up, i.e., that Shamar Moore wig in, I think the movie's called I Can Do Bad by Myself, or something else. Oh, no, Diary of a Mad Black Woman. Sorry. So yeah, if anybody that's seen Diary of a Mad Black Woman, Shamar Moore's wig is off the hook, right? Because it's like cornrows, but it's like they gave him a wig with like super old cornrows. So those who are unfamiliar with braids or any locks or even my hair, like any type of style, like when it's new, when it's fresh, you can see the rows, right? And you can see the scalp. But as time, excuse me, my nose is itching. But as time goes on, it gets fuzzy. It gets old. And so, the wig that they gave this brother, the braids were struggling. They looked like he hadn't gotten his braids redone in like 3 or 4 months. And so he was walking around with that on his head for the whole movie, right? But I believe his character was somebody who, had a prior criminal record, worked in a warehouse or something like that. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But, again, that's the storyline that he tends to put in his movies. So it's interesting that he's, spoken the somewhat quiet part out loud now and has shared that, yes, the storyline that you see in damn near all of my films, that is my life philosophy. Yes, Black women, find you somebody that can only help you pay a light bill while he's living in a whole mansion. So I think people feel a way about that, right? Like, why? So there's a couple of things. And I don't think I addressed this in a previous video. My apologies if I have. Part of it is material, right? Because I think successful relationships in 2023, the few that I've seen that are successful, are partnerships, right? The man and the woman, if they're a heterosexual couple, they're helpmeets, right? And so what does it mean that you're telling an entire population of women that they can't find a helpmeet, right? That's problematic. I think it's also really problematic for Black men because you're essentially like, okay, well, if you've got, and I don't know why I keep sticking on the number 21. Like, I know that a light bill is not $21, but that number keeps coming back to me. I'm like, if all he has is $21 in his pocket. And then I was like, oh, Tyler didn't say $21. That's a whole narrative that I'm putting out there. It's like, oh, this brother's gonna put like the light bill on layaway. Here's $21. Like, but no, that wasn't a part of anything that was said. That was just my imagination running wild. But the idea that, okay, a man, he only has enough money to pay a light bill. Okay, so let's bifurcate that. Where in American society are you living for the cost of a light bill? even if he lived with his mom or his grandma or somebody in his family, they're still going to have him coming out of pocket for more than a light bill. Like, really? There's, can you get Netflix? Can you buy some groceries? I mean, damn. Maybe Tyler Perry, to be fair, my friend said this because I forwarded this shit to her because I was like, would you look at this shit? And she was like, oh, well, maybe he just generally meant like utility bills, like that the guy didn't have money to pay a mortgage. And to be fair, he might have meant that. But that's such a specific thing to say. Oh, he can only pay a light bill. He didn't say the guy, oh, he can only help you with utilities, or he can give you limited assistance with utilities. That's not what the Tyler said. He said a light bill very specifically. So that's why I'm like, okay, well, let me check myself, right, on creating alternate narratives, right? So let me boot the area of my brain out that said $21 because no one ever said that. But then also let me take him at his word. He said a light bill, right? So if you're looking at it in terms of the male, right, in the situation, you're not living anywhere in American society for the cost of a light bill. I mean, I would venture to say that even if you lived in a homeless shelter, it's more expensive than the cost of a light bill, right? So essentially what you're saying is that Black women as a whole should subsidize Black men, right? And there are plenty of Black men that are economically successful, that are entrepreneurs, C-level executives, so on and so forth, right? But what I'm saying is for him to verbalize that, you're actually lowering a standard that does not exist right now, right? So let's say he never made that comment. You and I know there's no one in American society living anywhere as an adult for the cost of a light bill, right? So everybody's paying more than that. So there's a standard that everyone's doing more than, and you've actually set it back in terms of making it, making the bar lower. So I hope that that's clear. Sorry, I'm tired. Now this part I think I did say in a previous episode. And then I forget. Okay, so there's nowhere that you're living for the cost of light bill. Yeah, so the second part, the part that I think I did say before is, and to me it's somewhat gendered, but not really. If a male friend told me, oh, my girlfriend, she's kind of down and out right now, she can only help me with the light bill, I would be alarmed by that. I would tell him that maybe that relationship doesn't have as much long-term potential. So I think that that's alarming anywhere, again, because it's setting the bar lower. We all know that there was a tweet that someone put out in terms of how much it costs to have a studio apartment or a one-bedroom apartment in at least a half dozen major cities. You don't have to live in a major city, but I mean, that's realistically where a majority of the jobs are, right? So it's like, if I'm in a studio apartment in New York, right? Bringing it back to one of my first topics here. And let's say it's like $2,200 or $2,300 and I'm a guy, right? So that's what I'm paying. I'm paying $2,200, $2,300 for a studio apartment. Let's say, I'm a guy, I'm a heterosexual guy. My girlfriend wants to move in. She moves in. Okay, cool. You mean to tell me she's only giving you money for a light bill? Does she eat? Does she use heat? Does she use AC? Does she use water? Like, no. I mean, I think people have to be more honest about the economic realities of relationships. every relationship you have in your life has an economic cost or consequence, right? So whether that's parent-child, whether that's, grandparents, grandchildren, your friendships, right? When you go out to brunch with your friends, when that bill comes, like, what it do, right? Do you have that one friend who's like, oh yeah, I've got it? Or, does everybody like say, okay, let's get separate checks and stuff like that? Every relationship has economic realities. And so what does it mean that this man who has such power in the entertainment industry is blatantly telling Black women that, and I'm going to use the word fairy tale here, but that's not exactly what I mean. I'll explain. He's telling Black women, you can't have your fairy tale, when the quote unquote fairy tale that most Black women are looking for is actually not a fairy tale. It's actually what women from any other race or ethnicity expect off the rip, right? So if that's okay, someone who is secure, someone who can provide, someone who supports you, emotionally, mentally, and partially financially, like he's already taking basically a third of that off the table. All right. So again, if I knew a guy and he was like, oh, there's this woman that I'm dating and she can only afford to help me with the light bill, I would be like, that's rough. All right. But then I think the part of it that is the most insidious is the way in which I think his comment makes such damning assumptions about Black men, right? So let's say, okay, you have a significant other. Yeah, and he can only afford to help you with the light bill. And you're okay with that. That doesn't mean he should be okay with that, right? He should be like, okay, that's what it is right now. But he should also have drive and ambition to move past that. Even if it's only a little bit past that. Okay, I'm helping you with the light bill, and then I have, gas and electric. And then, I make sure that I keep, gas in the tank, right? So anytime we need to go somewhere, I've got transportation covered. That's something a bit better than what he was talking about. But he was just like, oh, like, Black women, you make more money. And so, a lot of us can only afford the light bill. But if he loves you, then that's okay. It's like, no, the fuck, it's not okay. But it shouldn't be okay for him either, right? Meaning, what is his life purpose, right? Like, what is going to give him pride and dignity in what he has brought to this planet as an individual, and then the potential and the ambitions for what he can achieve. Because just leaving it as, okay, I help you with the light bill, bet, all right, I'm good, that's it. No. Like, even right now, let's say if I was a housewife and I didn't even have to come up with the light bill, like, it's just like, okay, you stay at home and take care of the kids. I still have ambitions. It's like, let's get the kids into gymnastics, or like, how are their grades? You have to help them with their homework, or, how's the house? Like, maybe we should have a generator and some solar panels in case stuff goes down. Or, my mom is really into building pantries, working on building the pantries. You still have an ambition to do something, even if you're not the breadwinner. And what I don't like about the scenario that he presented is he, I think, painted men that are just like him, right? Black American men with all that our lineage and legacy implies. And he was just like, yeah, that's cool. You had to have known people were going to come for you and drag you when you were saying that shit. Like, he had to... How? How, Sway? How? Like, anyway, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent about that. But it's, just something that's still kind of in my mind because people are still bringing it up. But, again, back to my original point about Tyler Perry. I wonder what this will portend for his next film release, because I think I've paid maybe to see one or two of his movies in the actual theater. But my family and stuff, we have the Madea movies on DVD and stuff like that. We watch them, at Thanksgiving and stuff if everybody's around. It's just something that you can have on, something that people can agree about. Like you'll get a good laugh out of most of his stuff. But I think he has breached his trust, or he's breached the circle of trust that Black women had built around him. And I think that I'm not sure if that circle can be repaired. So we shall see. Other things, more celebrities getting divorced. I know, I heard yesterday that Jodie Smith Turner, I think it's Turner Smith, and Joshua Jackson are getting divorced, and there's just like a lot of breakups and divorces and stuff like that. And a friend of mine said, oh, well, a lot of these relationships that hit the skids during COVID, a lot of that is still clearing out. And yeah, that might be the case, but I think this was something that I mentioned in the last episode. I just wonder, like, astrologically, what planets are realigning, or what planets are misaligned, that's causing people to just be like, you know what? I don't want to be married to you. I want to be out on these streets. Like, I had to get a new bank card on Friday. And so, because the bank claims that they sent me one in a white envelope, I'm like, no, you did not. And I was out of town when they sent it, so I didn't get it. So I was like, let me go over here and get this new bank card before everything expires, and I don't have access to the little bit of money that I do have. So I go there, and the teller, she was helping me and everything, but she kept looking at me. And I was like, oh, I don't know if there's something stuck in my teeth, or I don't know what's wrong. So she took me out to the ATM, and we were just testing the new card to make sure it works. And she said, oh, I'm sorry. I know I keep looking at you, but you look exactly like my daughter-in-law. And then she paused and she said, oh, former. And I said, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And she didn't go into details, but she was just like, yeah, my son still wants to work it out. But she was like, nope, she just doesn't want any of it. She's just on to the next one. And so, not on to the next one. I don't want to make assumptions about her relationship status, but just saying that, like, she was done with the teller's son. Like, she just doesn't want to hear anything he has to say, doesn't want to repair the relationship. So all I said was, listen, I don't know anything about your son. I don't know anything about your daughter-in-law. I just hope that it's not that bad, because you can tell her, trust me, she doesn't want to be out here. She does not want to be out here, right? Now, this is different if someone is, cruel or abusing you or psychologically manipulating you or isolating you from everybody in your life. Like, that shit is crazy. That's not normal relationship problems. That's next level stuff. But all of that being said, if you don't have any of that going on, you might just want to go to counseling, because it is wild out here. I was on a dating app, right? And this happened last night. I'm on a dating app, right? Told y'all it was story time tonight. So I'm on a dating app, and first of all, I matched up with the guy. He wasn't somebody that I would usually click on. And part of it was that, part of it was his age. He's like 6 or 7 years younger than me. And then part of it was his pictures and his profile, his actual written profile didn't stand out. So when I'm looking at dating profiles, I'm just looking for something that shows me who the person authentically is. So sometimes people will have photos of them in weird costumes and stuff like that, but you can tell like, oh yeah, this person's a total weirdo, but it's funny. Or sometimes somebody can write a heartfelt bio and I read those shits, so I'm like, oh, this person, they're revealing a little bit of who they actually are. And I mean, I think that that's important because people lie so much on the internet. So anyway, nothing about his pictures or about his bio stuck out. It was just kind of like, I would have swiped left. But he sent me a note and it was just basically like, yeah, like, we'll be a match. Trust me. Like, I'm your dude, basically. And so I was intrigued because I was like, he seems very, very confident, but at the same time, not disrespectful or anything like that. So we had only been exchanging notes for a day and a half. So we were talking last night, and because I have such a long commute, I have to get up super early in the morning. Like, I have to be up before 4 in the morning, right? Like ideally at 3:30 at the latest, but this morning was a shit show because I was just so tired I overslept. But most days, if I'm driving in the city, I've got to be up at 3 a.m. So I'm like, okay, it's getting late. Let me go to sleep. So I said, listen, I've got a long commute in the morning. Can we chat, later in the week or later today or something like that? Something that would have led him to believe, okay, we're going to talk super soon. Do you know he unmatched me because I said I had to go to sleep? So all of that being said, to all the celebrities that are breaking up right now, whether you're married, long-term relationship, hookups, so on and so forth, to all the regular people who are breaking up now, out of a marriage, long-term relationship, or hookup, good freaking luck. Because you know what we have out here? We have people who unmatch you when you say you got to take your tired ass to sleep. That is what's out on these streets. So with that being said, best of luck to you all. All right. And this is season 2, definitely, episode 4, possibly, or episode 5. I will label it properly. And thank you for anyone who's joined me this evening. And thank you to anybody who will watch the playback either on Instagram Live or on YouTube, because I have a majority of the previous episodes there. My next broadcast will be either tomorrow, Wednesday, or Thursday. I'll definitely try to advertise in advance. And with that being said, have a good night.